Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are having a very crucial discussion with the journalist slash researcher Krishangi Sinha. And the discussion is about the special intensive revision, which is starting from Bihar, but it's expected to be rolled out nationally. And Krishangi works at the Lokniti CSDS, which is where she has been researching this topic deeply. So, without wasting much time, Krishangi, why don't you give us a brief about your background and what this exercise is and what you have been researching about this? So, let's get started.
Okay, firstly, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for having this conversation, which is important for people to know about. Something that involves everybody at some stage or the other. Right now, it's Bihar. We have had the election commissions taken out the 2002 electoral roll for West Bengal and also for few constituencies for people to check their names. And it's expected to happen there as well. So I think everybody in India should know about this process and what is happening. So thank you for having this conversation. My name is Krishangi, as you mentioned. I work as a researcher with local CSDS, which is into different various types of researches, from electoral research to youth research. I focus on elections as well as different other social issues, something that's happening around. So the base document is the 2003 electoral roll. So if you're in the electoral roll of 2003, you're supposed to just fill in a form and submit the form. And if you're flagged by the booth level officer who's in charge for collecting these forms, you are supposed to give your birth certificate as well as your parents' birth certificate, depending on the year of birth. So that's
Right.
more or less what the process is. If you're not in the 2003 electoral roll, you're voted after that, you're supposed to submit the form, your birth certificate as well as your parents' birth certificate, both your parents. So you have to give your mother as well as your father, regardless of where you live, be it the remotest of the village or urban area, you're supposed to have a birth certificate with you, not just yours, but your parents as well.
Right. So, I mean, this is clearly a difficult to procure document, right? Like, I know I'm a native of Bihar, and no matter how much I consider myself a citizen of India, I don't think I can find my father's birth certificate today if you ask me to. So, it's a basic understanding of the polity of Bihar and how policy was done in the 60s and 70s, that birth certification was a very informal process. There are many people in government service, for example, they when they were filling up their forms for UPSC or whatever, their parents would say something like, the day you were born, it was raining, so they would just write August or July as their birth date or something like that. So this I mean, the procurement of birth certificate is not an easy process, especially if you go back to your parents' generation, right? So can you talk a little bit about the administrative difficulties that can come in for the normal public to kind of be a part of this exercise and be subject to get their documents verified, right?
See, very frankly, I completely agree with you. The process that the Election Commission is doing, the cleaning of the electoral roll, is the need of the hour. One
Mm,
person, one vote is there. It should be there. However, the time, especially in Bihar, the time they've given from July to September, they're expecting to collect all the documents, take out the first rule, which they have. They've taken out the draft rule. And then if you have any objections, you appeal, and then the final electoral rule is supposed to come out by 30th September, and the state goes into election in October. I think it's a little difficult for people when you talk about having birth certificates. If you go to rural areas, what you said that they remember by the rain or something like that. You have, if you ask someone in a village कि आपका आपकी पैदाइशी कब की, they'll say कि उस समय ना ये, they remember it by an incident कि Indira Gandhi passed away, or something like that, that there was a major
mm,
flood that happened. They don't know when they were. So, and that is not just the fault of an individual, but also the state documentation system. When there was nothing as a compulsory thing that you have to have a birth certificate, in today's time, I agree that birth certificate is compulsory and an Aadhaar is compulsory in the hospital only. As soon as a child is born, the Aadhaar is made. So that I agree with. However, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, not even 60s, 70s, if you speak about early 90s, birth certificate wasn't an easy thing to procure due to the state's lack of awareness amongst people, the state's documentation process lacking. So it becomes very difficult for rural population to have. For urban population, if you tell somebody that you have to arrange for a birth certificate in a month's time, where are they supposed to? Do the people actually know where can they get a birth certificate made? That's also a
Right.
question.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that it is, after all, important to have this documentation and certification. I will, in fact, go a step further and say that the revision of electoral polls in itself is a completely valid exercise. You keep, in any kind of formal system, you keep needing to update your roles and your lists and all of that. And from time to time, the Election Commission, in its own mandate, has a legal requirement to sort of keep updating its electoral rolls and all of that. Uh, I do, however, think, and this is actually from a podcast episode that Kapil Sibal was doing with Mr. Ashok Lavasa, the ex-election commissioner, and Mr. Yadav, the activist, Yogendra Yadavji. So, one thing that he said that really stayed with me was that the election commission was a always an inclusive organization, and their role has always been to admit documents but never to adjudicate the veracity of those documents, which is a very important a claim that after all, it was an inclusive organization that has always been known to improve the expanse of India's voter base, right? And in that, I have some important questions about the capacity and ability of the election commission to carry this out fairly. So let's talk a little bit about the BLOs and how what powers do they have about with the people. Is the capacity even there to do this exercise in Bihar right now, when the state is sometimes flooded and all of that? So
Especially now, you have the monsoon season going on. You have the roads flooded. I am in Bihar right now, and you have the rains going on. The roads are flooded, and this is in
right,
an urban area. What do you expect out of rural areas? People cannot go out. People have other various things to do. And when
right,
you think about arranging the birth certificate, that's secondary. But I'm supposed to be in the state to do it. What about the migrant workers who are staying outside? What are they
right.
supposed to do? They are supposed to come to Bihar back, get their names put in the electoral roll, not knowing that whether or not they'll be there also. Then
Hmm.
they go back, do their work, and then again come during October, November for Chhat Puja and surprisingly the elections also at the same time. So that's a cost, I think, which is a big cost for them to have. When it comes to the election commission's capacity to do it, you have the BLOs who are there. And I think in India, we tend to give a lot of power to a single individual very easily. And there are
Hmm.
times when this power can be misused. If I am a BLO and I'm in charge for a specific constituency, and I know, and I have my political inclinations, whatever they are, when it comes to, and I know that this is a polling station where, my opposition party's votes are put, I will try to, exclude as many voters as possible from there due to my
Hmm.
political bias. So,
Right.
your political inclinations do come into being. And giving a single power to a BLO in here, I think, is incorrect. Is just unfair, especially around the elections. The elections are not even 2 months away. You have it in October, you start with the elections. What do you call the term for this government is supposed to end on 21st, 24th November. So I think if they wanted to do this process, they would have had a better time to do. For West Bengal or any other state, if they start from now, I think it's a good time to start. But just 2, 3 months before election, it creates a lot of confusion among that. Why are my documents needed? In a rural
Hmm.
area, you tell a lady who's in her 60s कि आप अपना birth certificate दीजिए. What will she think? कि किस लिए देना है? Why?
Hmm.
मतलब वो एक uncertainty आ जाती है, वो एक anxiety आ जाती है. And I think it's very unfair to put people in that position. It's the election commission's job to, टेक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फॉर दिस. अगर आपको वोटर रोल क्लियर क्लीन करना है, तो आज तक तो आप इलेक्शन करा रहे थे वोटर आईडी पे और एपिक कार्ड पे. कीप दैट इज वैलिड. Supreme
Hmm.
Court has also said to keep Aadhaar or the Epic or the voter ID as valid proofs rather than the birth certificate. So why is the Election Commission not keeping that something that they have till date sort of had elections on? So it's incorrect that आप 2024 के इलेक्शन तक आप अपना वोटर आईडी और एपिक कार्ड से वोट कर सकते हैं. बट 2025 के बिहार इलेक्शन से पहले मैं अपना सिटीजनशिप प्रूफ करने के लिए आई नीड माय बर्थ सर्टिफिकेट. I think that's
Hmm.
incorrect for people. It's unfair and a little confusing for people also. See, why are you doing this? The reason we are having this discussion is because we are all confused that what suddenly happened to the election commission.
Yeah.
Ki, nahi, nahi, karo, karo, karo. I think that's the reason everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look at it like this, right? You and I are, I mean, safe to say, from an educated section, and we follow public policy closely. And we are also fairly confused because, at some point, Epic is a valid document to bring to the polling booth. And then you have linking of, say, your different cards with your Aadhaar card, which are in themselves not a proof of citizenship. Then you need your parents' birth certificate to then eventually conclusively prove citizenship. But even then, reasonable doubts can be raised. So in Bihar, I think this is like a test run, right? Because when you start doing this in states like Assam and West Bengal, the demographic anxiety will be much more. So if you do this in a way that is not well thought out, the number of people who you can subject to the this kind of administrative inefficiency will be much larger. And what is the real solution then? If you are able to conclusively state that many people in, say, West Bengal or Assam don't fall into the revised electoral roll, are we to deny people voting rights? And if that is the case, then if they were Indian citizens, not Indian citizens, then are we to detain people? And the lack of public outreach, and I don't want to cause any misinformation or anxiety, but the lack of public outreach has in the past caused a lot of anxiety amongst especially marginalized sections, right? So I think this needs to be really well thought out. I'm glad actually in one way that the SIR is happening, because it's weirdly the government painting itself into a corner, and the ECI also painting itself into a corner, because the real question that we need to ask is that in India today, citizenship is a mere legal status, but nothing conclusively proves it. Whether whether even people like you and me, like I, though don't even live in a border state. I was born in Madhya Pradesh. I live in Haryana. These are two states which are they don't share any international border or a coastline. Some of the rare states, there are like 4 5, right? So even me, born in Bhopal, living in Gurgaon, I don't think beyond 4 5 documents, if somebody really wanted to doubt my citizenship, what am I to show them? So this is the real question that we need to start asking ourselves, right?
Yeah, it's just that even in Bihar, they've got the first draft roll out. In the last week, they got the draft roll out. With the draft roll, also, if your name is there, that you should not be celebrating. You're still supposed to give out the proof that yeah, you have. There are 11 documents that the election commission has listed out, and people are supposed to submit the proof. It's not that if you've made it to the list, you are in. You are not yet in. You are supposed to still present your document. And what if I don't make it to the list? Then what? What
Hmm.
is the action now? I appeal. There's a Form 6 which is available on the Election Commission website. I appeal to that, contesting that I should be there. And then by 30th September, they decide, nahi, nahi, you deserve to be there or you don't. By chance, I don't make that list, then what? The question is,
Right.
do people know ki what is happening? That then you decide that because I cannot prove my citizenship, I'm no more a citizen of India who has been born, brought up in India, studied in India. I'm supposed to go now. What's after this? Do people
Right.
know that? And does the election commission know that what are they supposed to do after declaring that this individual has not made it to the list?
Can you take us through the appeal process a little bit? Like how exactly am I to appeal it? For example, if my name doesn't show up in the revised voter list, so what does somebody do?
So basically, there's a Form 6 which is there. In that, if you think that someone's name shouldn't be there, you can appeal then also. And if you think your name should be there, then you have to fill the form, you have to submit it. And then the booth level officer, and they have included the district magistrate also in the process, who is the chief district
Mhm.
officer, election officer for the area as well. So they
Right.
also then they have a hearing for it. You ask the voter, and the district magistrate sits, and then it's decided whether or not you are supposed to be in the list. That's the process as of now. This is the information that the election commission has given. कि आप फॉर्म भरिए And for people who are first time voters, there is a form 7 which is available for them, and they're supposed to fill that form saying that I'm a resident of this place. Not even resident now, I'm the citizen of this country and I reside here.
Hmm.
So I'm a first time voter, so please add me in the list. That's the process as of now. As of today, this is the process with this topic and so many changes happening every day. It might just change by the time this episode comes out. So not sure about that, but as of now, this is the process. But there's going to be a public hearing where the voter also gets a say to justify how they deserve to be in the electoral roll, and then they take a call on whether you have to be there.
Yeah, so I mean, there is an existing dispute resolution in place, and I think that in itself is important. But another thing that this brings me to, which is slightly important, is that from my understanding, the Election Commission is not a very large organization, and it absorbs the cadre of the state governments and the officers' machinery to conduct the exercise of any legislative assembly or Lok Sabha elections, right? So
Yes.
from that, one thing that brings me to another point of concern is that when you start adjudicating even citizenship of certain people, that for example, election commission documents, some person says that I'm not able to verify the veracity of this person's documents. In my view, he should not be if this is the opinion of the returning officer, that in my view he should not be in the electoral rolls. So you have now, on behalf of the Election Commission, created a permanent doubt on somebody's citizenship status. But beyond that, when the Lok Sabha or sorry, when the Legislative Assembly election ends, then the district administrators, everybody goes back to their day-to-day roles. So then, what is the process? Because in some ways, you might have created some kind of doubt on somebody's citizenship. Then the Election Commission is out of the picture, but that person has lost their right to vote effectively, right? So it's pushing people out of the democratic process alone, but we don't have the adequate machinery to adjudicate on citizenship disputes right now. And that is the danger with linking the two. Your electoral responsibility as a citizen, if you link it to unclear citizenship rules and issues, then you are standing on something even the government doesn't know what to do with. So
Exactly.
what
The
are your
thing is,
thoughts on that?
there are about 65 lakh voters that have been removed from the electoral roll, the draft electoral. Now those 65 voters are either dead, either missing, or have voting in have voter IDs in 2 states, 2 or more states. So the
Hmm.
thing is, after this, if for example, if I am a voter of Bihar and I'm a voter of Delhi, this is an example. This is not true. I'm a voter of
Hmm.
Bihar. I am in the electoral. So if I am removed from Bihar, they say कि नहीं नहीं आपका दिल्ली का भी है, आपको हम बिहार से हटा रहे हैं. ठीक है, मेरा हटा
Hmm.
दिया इन्हें. और फिर दिल्ली में भी वो कहते हैं नहीं नहीं आप दिल्ली के भी वोटर हो आपको नहीं हटा दो. Then what happens to me? Nobody knows.
Hmm.
The thing is, I don't have a very definite answer. So basically, for me, the question main here is what I want to know also is through my research that how is it the election commission's job to decide whether or not I'm a citizen of this country, and how are you
Yeah.
linking my citizenship to my right to vote? Your job is to make sure that a person has one vote, one person. That you can do with the Epic ID also that you have. The Epic ID
Yeah.
is supposed to be, if I'm putting in my Epic ID in Bihar, they are supposed to make sure that it's linked enough that it should not show in my Delhi thing. But if I'm trying to become a voter of Delhi, it doesn't let me. So that's
Yeah.
that's the thing that they can do till 2024, not even till 2025 with this Epic ID, with the same Aadhaar you can test. You were having elections. You made sure that I can vote. You had, yeah, this person has the right to vote. But suddenly you feel that nahin, this is not going right. We should change the whole narrative. Now people first prove that you are a citizen of this country. Then you get a right to vote, and your citizenship can only be proved through your birth certificate. Then
Hmm.
what was the point of having an Aadhaar made? This whole conversation that started that get your Aadhaar. Then what was the point of having a voter ID? Then the
Yeah.
Epic card, and then 100 other things. For a bank
Yeah.
account, you need your Aadhaar linked. For a phone SIM, you need a Aadhaar link. But for a citizenship, I cannot have my Aadhaar. So I think that's
Yeah.
just a wrong thing to do. And election commission having this right to do, you do it. You have the electoral role. You clean up the electoral, but do it without any political biases. It's my
Yeah.
suggestion. Right? Keep the elections aside. Do it before elections. Do it 6 months before elections. Do what you're trying to do in Bengal, do what you do in any other state. But don't do that to people like this. Don't get them in a situation just because you have some, political pressure on.
Yeah. That's a very, very valid point. I'll circle back a little bit to where you started on this point. That Ashok Lavasa also on the interview that I was watching highlighted this issue, and he said something very pertinent. That largely because the attitude and the idea of the election commission was to be fairly inclusive earlier, they would even allow a person with the same name to be registered as a voter in two different places, because the principal assumption was a fair one कि आप वोट करने आओगे तो एक ही जगह, so
एग्जैक्टली मैं इतना तो
you
वो नहीं करना चाहती कि मैं पहले लोकसभा इलेक्शन में पहले मैं दिल्ली जाऊंगी, मैं दिल्ली वोट करूंगी, देन आई एम गोइंग टू टेक अ फ्लाइट बैक और अ ट्रेन बैक टू बिहार, नहीं मुझे बिहार में who has the time?
Exactly. And I mean, even in the Legislative Assembly, Lok Sabha, if you vote in different locations, but on the day off, you can't be at two different places because, there are security, there is checks, there's so much of ECI staff is present. So it was not really a glaring challenge in the Election Commission's face that a voter had his name in two different places on the same day. If on the if on the 23rd June of 2029, hypothetically, the Lok Sabha election is on the same day in Bihar and in Delhi, as a voter ID holder, as an epic holder, I will appear only at one location to vote, right? And so that is something that the election commission would earlier kind of use to fizzle out or crowd out any kind of multiple voting or whatever, which was not really a challenge for them as such. Now, I think that the the real debates, once they start happening around issues in Bengal and Assam, they will soon to be very quickly focused on the lack of conclusivity in proving citizenship. In the India-Bangladesh border, for example, we know Bengalis are a very hotly discussed issue nationally nowadays. Few days ago, Delhi police issued a document calling Bangla Bangladeshi language. So very interesting time to be Bengali in India. But the fishermen near the Sundarban creeks, for example, they, for administrative reasons or for maybe issues on the states on both sides, they carry national identity cards of both countries. So they have an Aadhaar of India, then they have the Bangladeshi equivalent of it. Bangladesh also has a national identity card system. So very clearly, we cannot accept anybody with an Aadhaar card into India, because now there is a clear doubt on anybody who holds an Aadhaar card. And I am a supporter of the idea that you need to have clear citizenship laws, then have a clear electoral role. But the manner in which you need to do is that this is the mandate of the Union Home Ministry, right?
Exactly.
So, and if we need some kind of risk taking in policy making, which I think should be the next outcome, that this entire burden, this entire difficulty in conducting of the exercise should be shifted to the MHA. I will go a step further and saying that now that this Pandora's box is being opened and citizenship is being questioned openly, not just in Calcutta or even in Haryana, even in Delhi. So let's just have a Ministry of Home Affairs conducted exercise where they study clusters, where they study people who is more likely to be a illegal immigrant, and start issuing maybe there is a legal reason to now then issue one last citizenship identity card, which can draw power from the MHA. Germany does something very similar, although Germany has maybe administratively lesser challenges. But you need some innovation also, right? Anyway, that's my
No,
suggestion,
but
I guess.
that's actually true that you cannot mix both. Cannot decide. You have it has to be step one and then step. You are doing that step one and step two. We do it together, and just so that it seems like a very independent work, the election commission does it because
Right.
it's easier for us. It's simpler for us. It seems that we are not doing something that might spark controversy. The election commission and the citizenship and voter rights, I think, should be dealt with separately. First, to decide whether or not a person is a citizen of it. Then you do a second that whether or not person can vote and whether or not that person is a who holds a multiple voter ID or not. You cannot mix these two things. When you're mixing these two things, you're just trying to avoid the whole controversy around it. That yes, I am. It's just a easier way to say now that if I want to exclude someone, I am not doing it as a government. It's the election commission which is doing it, which is so-called an independent body. So what you said that the Ministry of Home Affairs should focus on whether or not a person is a citizen, and it's good. You should have very clear-cut decisions that yes, this person is a citizen of India and this person's not. And if Aadhaar is not able to do that, well and good. It's okay. We can find another document. We do that. We as Indians are very used to getting 100 documents made. Government says get an Aadhaar made, we all get an Aadhaar made. Now the government will say get a citizenship proof made, we'll all do it. We have no choice as to say. And then we focus on the fact that ठीक है अब मैंने प्रूव कर दिया कि मैं सिटीजन हूँ गवर्नमेंट को मैंने प्रूव कर दिया मैं सिटीजन हूँ तब मैं इलेक्शन कमीशन देखेगा and the burden should lie on the election commission. Why should it lie on me that whether or not I have to be a voter if I'm a eligible voter or not? I do my job, I submit the form. It's on the election commission to see that whether or not this person is a voter, is a citizen of this country. Why should I be always proving that no, I deserve to vote in this country as a voter?
Yeah.
I being the voter here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a very important point that people have also discussed, which is about the shifting of burdens, right? Like this very much should be the burden of your district administration to kind of uh, keep revising the data on with respect to how many voters live here, what the adequate population is. I think we also need to conduct more regular, more precision kind of exercises in determining populations rather than just wait for every decadal census. But like I said, I think after all, things become so imbibed in the old way of doing things that people don't take any risks with respect to policy making, right? Because everyone works with just some kind of decade old estimate of our populations, our demographics, and considering how politically charged these discussions get and are likely to get in the future, we need some better upgradation techniques. We can bring in 2 3 ministries, we can make it more efficient. I think you may raise a very important point about using the election commission for conducting this exercise, because it can at least seem like a neutral constitutional body. If you have the MHA do it, it will seem all the more
Yeah,
arbitrary.
yeah, exactly. Especially in today's day and age. More than that, when you talk about the election commission, we talk about the census. The census is expected to happen next year. After that, the delimitations also due. So, what's the point of doing the SIR right now in Bihar? आप जब एक बार सेंसस करोगे उसके बाद डिलिमिटेशन करोगे कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी शायद चेंज होंगी डिपेंडिंग ऑन द पॉपुलेशन चेंज तब आप उसके बाद फिर से इलेक्टोरल रोल बनाओ depending on if today an area is coming in constituency A and in 2 months it comes in constituency after the delimitation it comes in constituency B. So I as a voter also change become a voter of constituency B. So then what happens? The electoral roll again gets
Yeah.
revised. The whole process happens again. Not of course not the citizenship proving of the citizenship, but the whole administrative work. So the cost of that goes on the election commission again. Let's speak it in point of cost also. What you have some cost going on right now. Then you'll have a cost of conducting the election. Then it's a exercise that's going to happen across the nation. So doing it across the nation. Then comes
Mm.
the census, then the delimitation, and then again the election commission gets the cost. कि ठीक है, now अब ये final constituencies है, आप फिर से बनाओ पूरा electoral. जो हमने 1 2 साल पहले मतलब by the time delimitation happens, it will be 1 or 2 years from now. So again जो 2 साल पहले वाला list बना था उससे हम refresh करेंगे अब 2 साल बाद फिर से. So I just think that there's nothing that is justifying it to me right now कि बिहार में अभी आप क्यों कर रहे हो? इलेक्शन से इतने पहले एक इंडिपेंडेंट बॉडी इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया ये क्यों करा रहा है मतलब इट्स वेरी हार्ड फॉर
हाँ,
मी टू लाइक अंडरस्टैंड दिस
matlab, I think I can just hypothesize and assume that it's a test run, right? Because the real citizenship anxiety is in states like Bengal, Assam, and it will cause issues even in other northeastern states. For example, we haven't even begun talking about, say, Manipur, which has a very porous border with Myanmar. And there are other northeastern states where people's citizenship, because of porous border identities, would not be that clear. Uh, that being said, even the average person living on the margins in even the rest of India is not going to be very pleased with this exercise, or they will not have that much to prove their citizenship to. There is so many Sri Lankan refugees who were born in India, but they live in Tamil Nadu, but their parents' birth certificates are probably back in Sri Lanka. So that's clearly somebody by birth, an Indian citizen, but their legal citizenship and the legal status of their citizenship, how long it will take to determine, how long the election commission will take to accept them as voters, is that really a fair exercise on a country that claims to have universal adult franchise, right? So, I mean, there's so many more important questions to ask. I'm glad these discussions have started, because if you want clarity, it's important. But the way you have to do it has to be more public friendly, I guess. I mean, after all,
Exactly.
that's the goal, right? You don't want to be
And you
treated
tell,
as an other by your own government. Sorry, yeah. Yes.
no, my point is you tell the people what's happening. You make them understand. You spend some time having those drives that, yeah, this is what is going to happen and this is why it's going to. Then you do something. For example, if you have decided कि नहीं, birth certificate ही है as a valid, then like have a drive to get people who don't have a birth certificate and are genuinely citizens of India to procure that document. A lot of people don't know. Like I said earlier, where do they get the birth certificate from? In rural area, in the remotest of villages in India, we expect people to know who are in their late 50s and 60s कि birth certificate कहाँ मिलता है जिनको आज तक ये पूछा नहीं गया ये suddenly birth certificate दे.
So, I mean, I think that I want to start pivoting this conversation into making some of our conclusive statements. Like, I perfectly am a supporter of a valid exercise to even as far as evict illegal immigrants, right? I'm not a pro Bangladeshi कि बांग्लादेशियों को बसाओ. Although वो प्रोसेस भी सेंसिटिविटी से ही करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि इंडिया में, नॉर्दर्न इंडिया में बहुत सेंसिटिविटी पुलिस और एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के पास भी नहीं है एक इंडियन बंगाली को एक बांग्लादेशी बंगाली से डिफरेंशिएट करने की. सो अगर अगर इतनी सिटीजनशिप एंजाइटी है, सो इट रिक्वायर्स द स्टेट टू बी 2x मोर सेंसिटिव वाइल डीलिंग विद दीज इश्यूज. आई एम अ परफेक्ट सपोर्टर कि आप इलीगल इमिग्रेंट्स को भी डिपोर्ट करो, आप इलेक्टोरल रोल्स को भी रिवाइज करो, बट आपको तरीका खुद खुद ब खुद धीरे धीरे सेंसिटिव और इंक्लूसिव करते रहना पड़ेगा. सो while that, having said that, I think that uh, prior to the sir in Bihar, the election commission has a record of being super inclusive. I think they will go back to that idea on how they have been in the past. uh, इस समय Bihar I only look at as an experiment. We know now the judiciary is also involved. So I don't even know if this is going to be a permanent way of operating for the ECI, where SIRs are much more intensive, much more frequent. So I think all in all, that would be my conclusion, that I'm still a little bit more optimistic about the manner in which the ECI is going to go in the future. Like I don't think that exclusion is going to become part of their policy apparatus, because after all, there is a degree of neutrality to the ECI. It has many constitutional bounds with which it works. And I think if the test run in Bihar is not that successful, I would like to hope that there are people in government who think that Bengal is another Pandora's box. So a national implementation of such an exercise will kind of be stopped at. And one last point is that, this is also, the way that this has been done is a violation of like the idea of presumption of continuing citizenship, right? So in a sense, if we are eliminating 65 lakh voters now, I want to ask how many of them were valid voters in the previous Lok Sabha elections or the assembly elections. So now we have taken their results. We have governments running based on those results. And today we are now questioning the citizenship identities of like thousands and thousands and lakhs of voters. In a time when more and more assembly elections results are being determined by double digit number of votes. It has happened in many instances where a few hundred votes have changed the fate of an assembly election outcome. So the number of questions that arise from this exercise are too many. So yeah, that would be my conclusion. Krishangi, let's get your thoughts. Where do you see this going in the future? And yeah.
Very frankly, I would like to sort of continue to your point that the
Yeah.
process is correct. The electoral roll in India needs a cleaning. However, in Bihar, it's too soon. You're doing it in a manner which is very haphazard, there's a lot of misinformation amongst people. And the second thing that I personally think that should not be there, that the birth certificate. You have other documents. Like Aadhaar, you have a lot of loopholes, I agree. Maybe not Aadhaar. But till date, the voter ID and Epic card, the Election Commission considered as valid proof. You have, like you said, that 2024 elections were played on those voters, was played through the voter ID and through the Epic card. And suddenly that becomes invalid. So I think that's wrong. That is something that you have to accept other documents. And if last to say that if you're saying that nahi, hame bus birth certificates rakhne hai, to tell people how to get the birth certificate. Help them get the birth certificate. Get the administration involved in this. Get people to know what is happening कि हाँ आपको so and so जगह से जाके अपना birth certificate लेना है. उसके बाद आप ये करो. आप इलेक्शन के पास इतना मत करो. लोग क्वेश्चन करेंगे. It makes you sorry. And in a time when the election commission should be, sort of helping people trust them, it's the time when they are doing everything to get the people to mistrust them and to show that they are something which is unbiased. A few months ago, the election commission said कि जो हम recordings रखते थे polling station के 6 महीने के लिए, अब हम नहीं रखेंगे 6 महीने का record. हम 45 days में उसे delete कर देंगे. That again questions the opposition questioned it, and people also thinking कि क्यों suddenly आप 6 महीने रख सकते थे, आज तक आपने रखा, आप suddenly आप कह रहे कि अब हम नहीं रखेंगे, उसके बाद आप ये SIR निकाल. So I think the election commission should make people trust them more. Ki yes, we are an independent body. We are conducting the Maha Utsav, that as they call it, during elections in the country, the largest democracy of the world. Maybe just show that you're a little unbiased and you're not under political biases when you conduct any exercise that you do, for that matter, be it the voting or be it the SIR. That you are coming as an unbiased organization. Do the SIR. I am all for it. The electoral roll, yes, again and again, I'm saying that does need clean. There are lots of voters who are voting in two places. One voter, one vote, one person. Agreed, completely agreed. However, just like do it properly, do it ethically more than anything. That's what I have to say. You said more or less everything that I wanted to say. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think my last point is that now that an attitude has come around to discuss this nationally also, and anybody who reads the newspaper anywhere in the country is familiar with this exercise. Why not start pushing for it earlier, like before other state assembly elections, before the 2029 Lok Sabha elections? Let's just bring other states, other UTs on board, and let's have one national database for maybe voters across the country. It could even hypothetically make the census exercise easier. So, and which we have to undertake anyway, very
Yes.
soon. So I
It's
think 2027 is when it's been notified, right?
26.
26, right?
It's
So
still
yeah,
May.
yeah. So I think
So
this is
that's
an
it.
interesting conversation. Yeah.
But you will always have points in this. I think everybody has an opinion on this because this is something which is very. You have so much lack of information. You just know कि आपको ये 11 documents देखना है. Election Commission से क्या information लोगों को मिला? 11 documents देना है. अगर आप इस year से पहले born हो तो आपको ये documents देना है. इस year के बाद हो तो ये document. Nothing else. What else do
Hmm.
people know? Everyone is working on assumptions. All discussions are happening about what people think about. इलेक्शन कमीशन ने बस ये तीन चीजें लोगों को बताई और ये इसलिए किया जा रहा है क्योंकि हमें इलेक्टोरल रोल क्लीन करना है और आपको अपना सिटीजनशिप प्रूव करना है. आई थिंक
Hmm.
इट्स अ वेरी लाइक a lack of information amongst people at the end of the day. And more,
Hmm.
and that's the reason people are talking about it. You and I are discussing this today because people don't know what's happening. If you have proper
Hmm.
information, जैसे आधार कार्ड के टाइम कि हाँ आधार आपको बनवाना है, उसका कोई हिडन इंटेंशन हमारा नहीं हो ना हो, नोबडी नोस उसके बाद जो भी हुआ, बट आपको आधार बनाना है एज ए प्रूफ कि
Hmm.
आप यहाँ के रेसिडेंट हो, आप अपना एड्रेस दो, अपने फादर मदर किसी का भी नाम दो और आपको अपनी फोटो खिंचानी है बस. उसके बाद आधार में 100 चीजें जुड़ गई. बट लोगों को पता था कि ठीक है एक प्रूफ है. आज लोगों को नहीं पता है कि क्यों कर रहे हैं.
Hmm.
सो दैट्स अबाउट इट. दैट्स व्हाट आई फील. बट tell people, have that, as the election commission, have that communication with people. That's about it.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I think that discussions about electoral reforms and citizenship law will take so much more time, and I think when you are back in Delhi, I think we can do another feature about this, maybe a continuation. Maybe when I think this issue is still with the Supreme Court, I believe. Uh,
Yes, they have a hearing on 12th of August. So basically, in the last hearing, the Supreme Court said that you should have the Aadhaar or the voter ID as valid proof. And the next hearing is for 12th of August.
right. So maybe we can even do a follow-up feature on this issue.
Sure, I
So
would
yeah,
love to. Of course,
yeah.
of course.
Right. So thank you for joining us, Krishangi.
Thank you
I
so much
think
for having me.